This is Nando, and this isn't Madrid. She didn't have a mustache.
Clearly.
This is
And I'm also
Lauren.
not a guy.
This is Nando, and this is our special edition for today. This is my girlfriend, because Madrid is in El Salvador saving kids.
Yes, hi, my name is Lauren, and I'm excited to be here today. A little bit nervous, but I'm excited.
Yeah. One of the topics that or the topic today that really want to discuss is, you know, how society believes that men are supposed to act, or how they're supposed to behave when it comes to dealing with certain situations. Obviously, I'm not speaking for every guy out there, but I'm speaking specifically for myself. Because do you remember one of the first things you told me when we first got together? What you were looking for in a guy?
What was that?
You don't remember? You don't
I told you
remember?
a lot of things that I was looking for in a guy.
But you don't remember when it comes to emotions?
That I want someone to be able to be vulnerable with me and tell me how they're feeling about certain things, whether it's them telling me about their relationship or if they're upset because of personal or like family problems that are going on, that it's important for a significant other in general to be told those things so we understand where our partner's at. And maybe, like if you're sad, then I will treat you with more care than if we're just like both in good moods.
So, do you think it's important for men to be open when it comes to their emotions and feelings, or how they're feeling about a certain, say, situation that happened in their life, if it was a positive or a negative?
Yeah, I think that it's all about like understanding someone, and when you're able to be emotional and open up with someone, and that doesn't mean like a lot of people think that being emotional means like not being afraid to cry in front of someone, which I mean, I guess for some people that is the case, but to me, emotion is just like telling me how you're feeling and being vulnerable about certain things. You don't have to cry about them, but just telling me what's going on because it's important for me to, in order for me to be the best girlfriend I can be for you, or be the best daughter to my dad, or be the best sister to my brother, is them, or sorry, is, yeah, them being able to tell me how they're feeling about certain things and letting me know if they're, you know, nervous because they're trying to find a job, or if they're sad because someone in their life is maybe sick, or if they're just having a bad day and they want to be left alone. That's important for me to know too. And without that, I think that communication in a relationship isn't seamless if you're not being completely open with your emotions.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, when you first met me, how was I when it came to showing that aspect of my life, or just that part of our relationship? How was I when we first began dating or first began seeing each other?
I think you and just most men in general, whether it's a friend or a family member, like when you first start talking to them about emotion, they're very closed off. And for whatever reason, they don't want to open that part of themselves because they might feel weak. And it's hard to adapt to something like that when I'm a very emotionally in tuned person, and I always have been, because that's the kind of environment I grew up in. Is like we told each other how we felt because it does make a difference in how someone is treating you, at least if you care about that person. So it was hard for me that you weren't that kind of person when we first started dating, because then I feel like I don't understand you completely, or at least when we first started dating. I felt like it was hard to completely understand the things that you were going through, and it was hard for me to be what you needed in any of those situations that happened.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Why?
What's wrong?
Sorry.
Let's go get it. You can talk while you're over there.
Oh,
Here.
okay.
But I mean, she went to go get her the food that she put in the oven. But I mean, I'm gonna really talk about my life and where it kind of originated, or where it began for me growing up. I grew up in a, you can tell I'm Latino, and I grew up in a household with my sister, my cousins, and my family, where I wasn't necessarily told that it was wrong to show emotions. I wasn't told that it was something you should do, because my family didn't, or especially all the men that I saw in my life didn't.
Sorry, I wanted to
Yeah,
catch me
all of
chewing.
the men in my life don't show emotions, and that's how thought, that's how you're supposed to be. Don't show emotions. But also growing up, I mean, in friendships, I don't know about your friendships growing up, but with me, the boys didn't show emotions. We didn't talk about how we felt. It was either in Pittsburgh, it was if you felt some type of way about another guy, it was usually you go straight to fighting. That was never with me. That was never the case with me, because I was never that type of person. But usually everyone were, or the group I was a part of and the school I was a part of, was if they felt some type of way about someone, they wouldn't necessarily express it the right way. And for me, the right way is knowing how to choose the right words so it doesn't become a conflict or an issue, so it leads to fights. And that's what happened a lot in my school.
Yeah.
So for you, I don't know, but that's where I grew up. So it's tough for me to expect somewhere to, or to ask someone to change suddenly and become something that they're not used to. Obviously, it's gonna come with change, because that's something that you wanted from me. So I don't know about you, but I think that I've done a lot better now. But it comes with time. It just doesn't come, because we've been almost dating for 2 years, and it's been. I mean, I don't know when you saw it, when you saw me slowly change and adapt to what you were asking of me. But I mean, I feel that now I'm a lot better about it. But I mean, you can tell me your side of when you noticed I started to actually open up and start expressing how I felt, not just about you, but just about my life and about what was bothering me, if it was you or someone else, or if I was angry, sad. By the way, men do get sad. We just show it as anger.
Some people do.
I'm talking about myself right now, though.
Mm.
I'm talking about myself. I show it as anger, and I don't talk to people.
Yeah. I would say to start, it's really difficult because in the society that I was born into, and obviously it's a little bit different now than it is when, my dad and your dad were younger, but we grow up in this society where men are seen as weaker if they show
Just talk.
men are seen as weaker if they show emotion, or if they're being vulnerable, or if they cry, which is honestly the furthest thing from the truth. And any person knows that whether you're a man or a woman, being emotionally intelligent and being able to feel and control your emotions is like a superpower, and it's one of the most important qualities that you can have. and that you can bring to your life, and it affects the relationships you have with anyone you meet. So I think we should see it as more of a positive thing than a con, and people need to use that emotional intelligence to their advantage rather than see it as a weakness. But to go back to you specifically, and I think, well, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I'm sure other people who have specifically boyfriends, because that's my experience. I've only dated boyfriends.
That we know of. I know of.
I have not dated any women personally. Nothing wrong with that, but I am only speaking from experience. Um, that I feel like the more you know someone and the longer you're with them, you should be able to pick up on kind of like the nonverbal things they do that can tell that maybe they're more emotional or they're feeling upset or sad. And in my experience, whether it's with you or with my dad or my brother, it's very much nonverbal or in kind of maybe an angry way. Um, like, for example, when my brother and I used to get in arguments and my mom would get mad and yell at us, like, he would be just like wouldn't talk to anyone for the rest of the night, would be very silent treatment, or he would yell at me. Um, and I find that with you specifically, I wasn't getting yelling because you don't really yell, but
Don't yell at all.
yeah.
I don't yell at all. No.
Yeah, he does not. He doesn't yell.
I usually tell her, I'm usually the one telling her to tone it down when we're arguing about something. I'm usually the one to say to
Anywho,
calm it down.
um, I find that you are very much kind of, or I guess you've gotten a lot better at it now. But when we first started dating, you were very closed off. And if there was something wrong, and I could tell that there was something wrong because you're more, I guess, fast paced and aggressive, not with me, but just like, for example, if you're, this is a really simple example of anyone, but almost rushed. Like if you were putting something in a backpack, it would be like very aggressively or something. Um, or just being very quiet and kind of short with conversations, which I respect because there's times when I'm upset or I'm sad and I just, the last thing I want to do is hold a conversation. Um, but we did get to a point where I was like, I know you're upset, and I would just like for you to tell me that rather than say I'm fine or say it's nothing, because that, I was gonna say bad word, but I don't know.
It's fine. It's a
I
bad
know, but
words.
I'm afraid my parents are gonna watch this.
And why would your parents watch this?
I don't know.
My
They
grandma,
might. They might.
my grandma might watch it because she's on TikTok, checking to see when I post.
Yeah. Well.
But she doesn't understand English, so you're fine.
Okay. Well. Um. I really, really hate when people in general are very clearly bothered or clearly feeling some type of way and they tell you that everything's fine and that nothing is wrong. And it's one thing if you say that you don't want to talk about it right now, but we can talk later, or now isn't a good time. That's a fine answer. But to say nothing's wrong is kind of just like, okay, who are you really lying to? Because you're lying to me and you're lying to yourself. But you used to do that, and I told you that I'm not okay with that, and I cannot be in a relationship with someone who is going to tell me that nothing's wrong when clearly there is something wrong. It doesn't mean you have to tell me the second. It doesn't mean you have to tell me today or the exact reason why. If it's, for example, family issues, I don't need to know what is specifically happening, but just to be let known that, hey, like things at home or things with my family aren't good, and that's all. Like, that is more than I could ask for. And if you just let me know that happened and I'm upset about it, or and it's been on my mind lately, that is a very acceptable answer.
Oh, at first, when we first got together, I, I mean, we did kind of have a we did have a conversation about this where you did expect me, or that's how I felt. You expected me to tell you that second, or you expected me, or you wanted me to tell you that same day when something was wrong, and I was telling you I'm fine, but obviously I wasn't fine. But then we did have a conversation because for me, like you mentioned now, though, I'm the type of person that when I'm mad, I don't want to usually talk about it. If it's about you, I'll tell you that same day usually. But if it's about something else, I become quiet and don't want to talk about it until I have to talk about it. What I mean by have to is when I've already had the time to sit down on my own or at night think about what happened and comprehend why I feel a certain emotion. It can be angry. I mean, I usually tell her I'm not sad, but she always tells me it's okay to say you're sad. But for me, sadness turns into anger. So for me, I always say I'm angry
Yeah.
because for me, I don't really feel sadness. It's more anger, and that's what I do.
I think it's all like that learning curve of knowing the person that you're with. Um, when we first started having problems about not sharing emotions, I probably was upset. And at first, I did want an answer right then and there, just because sometimes I'm an impatient person, which is not beneficial. But if it is our relationship that is the reason for the emotion, then I do expect it to be within that day for sure, because I don't think problems in a relationship should be left overnight. Like, that's just something that I personally don't agree with. But if they're like your personal issues or anyone who I'm interacting with, if it's their personal things that doesn't involve me, I know now that sometimes people just need space and they might not want to talk right now. And that's just something that I have to accept, which is fine. And it pains me to see like people sad and that they don't want to talk about things, but I understand it. And I just would hope that they would tell me as soon as they feel comfortable with it.
Makes sense. Well, we're just kind of discussing our relationship right now, just of what you expect, or not what you expect, but what you hope that men realize, or that men realize it's okay to open up and to discuss what they're feeling or why they're feeling a certain way. But I also hope that you realize that most women aren't like you, where they allow men to be open and vulnerable. I can't even say it properly, but be open about how they feel. Because some partners, they're not like that because they might believe they're being attacked or that they're being questioned about certain aspects or whatever it may be for them. Because I'm not going to speak for them, but that's how some relationships are. Yes, it's not just women that do that, but men can also do that. But I'm just saying though, some relationships aren't like that. And some people don't. Some people aren't like that. They don't like. They expect men to be men and to be strong and to
Well, I still
be.
think you can be a man while showing your
Of
emotion.
course, but some women don't believe that. Some people don't
And
believe that. Some men don't believe that. Some men believe that for you to be a man, you need to be the strong one. You need to be the one that isn't showing emotion. You need to be not so much closed off, but just be don't be or not being straightforward of what's actually going on. You're kind of beating around the bush. When someone asks you what's wrong, you say I'm fine, but when you're not. But when it comes to, let's say, if when I end up doing, the real estate, commercial real estate, that's what I'm gonna do. If uh, let's say someone in the office, or if I'm at work or something, and someone asks, "Oh, what's wrong?" But because they obviously see me walk in and I'm not smiling, or I'm not, let's say, chatting with people, because usually that's who I am, especially with my favorite coworkers. Because usually I have like at least two guys when I work, or at least try to find at least a group of two guys that I can chat with. But I will say I'm fine, because that's who we are. Because we don't want to tell them how we feel or what's going on. I I do that with Alex though, with both of my friends. Alex is Madrid. He's the one on this podcast. I do it with both of them though. I actually do tell them how I feel with my close friends. I do tell them if they ask what's wrong. I tell them if it's not with if it's not in a group setting, like when if we're upset and they tell me, oh, what's wrong, because they see something's wrong, I just oh, me and Lauren, we just kind of argument. That's it. Because I think that's better than them thinking, why is he mad at me, is he mad because he had to come, da da da. But yeah.
Yeah, I first off, you can be a very masculine, very manly man and still show vulnerability and emotion. Um, in my opinion, and I know the opinions of at least the women in my life, they find that even more attractive because then you feel like you're in a very authentic relationship with someone. Um, I I personally don't know any women in my life who don't want their man to be emotionally available and in tune with their feelings. So I guess I would just say if you're experiencing a relationship or a situationship where either or the woman or the man or whoever's in the relationship isn't sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. If they don't put you in an environment where your emotions are going to be respected and accepted, then I think that's a really just big red flag. Emotions are a big part of a relationship. And I'm not just saying the emotions that you're having for your partner, but how they're feeling in general about things. And if you're in a situation where you're not heard and you feel like you and your emotions are not valued, that is probably not going to be a very long lasting or healthy, beneficial relationship. I see some men on Instagram saying, like, oh, well, your woman should be able to come and talk to you about anything and you should sit there and listen, but you shouldn't burden her with your emotions. But it's not a burden. And if you're looking at it like that, then maybe that isn't a relationship that you should be in. It doesn't mean you have to, again, do the whole crying thing and be that way about it, but just letting her know how you are feeling is not a burden. It's just letting someone know something. It would be the same thing as saying, like, hey, I'm going down to Target to pick up, I don't know, an Olipop. It's the same thing. You're just letting them know, hey, I'm sad. and you can leave it there. You can give her as much detail as she wants. But if you if your woman or your partner thinks that that's not masculine to let them know how you're feeling, then I think that's just a sign that things maybe aren't going to work out for the long run.
I mean, like we mentioned, though, it's different for each relationship. But to close it off, for me, I'm just gonna say that obviously, I'm not telling you how you need to act or how you should act or telling you that you need to act a certain way. But for me, it's when you grow up in a certain environment that tailors or that makes who you are when you grow up and you start having your own relationships and be with friends, families, whoever it may be. But that's what forms you and makes you who you are. And it's hard to fully change. Yes, you can adapt and build new you say new tools. You can add new tools to your shed, but you can add them, but they can easily be removed. You know, that's the way I see it. It's like you can easily, if you don't want, by what I mean by easily being removed is if you're not actually paying attention and willing to 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 become a better version of yourself. You're just removing the tools from your own shed, and you're not keeping them there to then have them and to use them when you need to. But yeah, that's my last thing. Do you have any last words or remarks?
Yeah, I think that being emotionally intelligent with yourself and being in tune with your emotions is definitely hard for anyone, um, especially in society in this day and time. For men right now, it's looked down upon, but it is not impossible. It takes work and it takes practice, just like it would playing a sport. You won't get it right the first time, but if you try and you are intentional with it, it will all come together. In my opinion, it's worth it because it creates stronger relationships, friendships.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, this
Thank
was
you.
the Nando and Madrid,
And
not
Lauren.
Madrid, obviously.
And Lauren.
But yeah, but this is a Nando and Madrid podcast. Thanks for listening. And this was our special guest, or we had a special guest, Lauren. By the way, she's my girlfriend. Just to
Yes.
remind everyone that does listen, hopefully people do listen. But yeah,
Thank you for having me on. I hope my views were insightful to someone.
they definitely will, because some men and just partners need to be willing to listen and become a better version of themselves.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for listening.
Thank
Adios.
you.